Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to a few of you. Welcome to today's community briefing. We are glad you're here. My name is Gregory Sneed. Today is the 16th of November in 2023, and we've got a fantastic guest for you today. We have Mr. Larry Keener. Larry has a bunch of initials following his name, and they are initials that we may not ordinarily associate with, but he is a certified in a number of areas in terms of food and food product safety. And he's here on the front end because there's an event coming up next week that heavily involves food, and that is Thanksgiving. So a lot of people will be preparing foods, storing foods, leftovers. So we're going to cover that and then be able to entertain some questions. So you're in the right place. And those of you who are watching on the rebroadcast, hopefully you catch it in time for Thanksgiving, and if not, certainly in time for the leftovers. So my name is Gregory Sneed. I have a company, Lifesaver Financial Services, and I help clients manage their money to keep more of it and pay less in taxes, because I firmly believe that when you feel better about your money, you feel better about your life. Now, it's my pleasure to welcome to the virtual stage the queen of our community briefing and part-time farmer, Miss Crystal Mitchell.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, part-time farmer. I'm happy it rained yesterday. My plants are smiling this morning. I can't wait to go out there to really take a closer look at them. Rain was cool, but welcome to the community briefing. We're happy to have our guest here. I told Larry that every time he comes on, it helps me enforce my diet even more, because at that point I'm afraid to eat everything. So I just stick to the stuff in my garden. So that's wonderful. I'm Krista Mitchell. I'm the co-director of Recycling Black Dollars, the inspiration behind the community briefing, which is a platform for us, is a platform that brings our leaders, our stakeholders, those individuals that are sitting at the table making decisions on our behalf. It brings them to you so you can introduce yourself and you can get to know them, make them accountable, as well as expand your network. Because as business people, we can't do this stuff alone. We have to have a network of people. So welcome. The community briefing is powered and sponsored by Recycling Black Dollars and the BBA, the Black Business Association. And we are financially sponsored by Wells Fargo Bank, Southern California Edison, PCR, SoCal Gas, and Los Angeles LDC. I did say PCR, right? Yeah, PCR. And so we want to thank you. And anyone else wants to donate to us, you can go on over to our website and make that happen. This is our place, so please put your information in the chat, and also any questions or comments you'd like to make to our speaker today. So we're excited. It's just a week before Thanksgiving, so this is either going to make you have a wonderful Thanksgiving, or it's going to give you some food for thought. So with that, Mr. Stephen, welcome. We have a phenomenal team here, guys. Mr. Gregory Sneed, he's our MC and master of the ceremonies. Mr. Stephen Turner, he is the master of producing and bringing in great guests for us. Myself and Miss Robin Billups, she possibly be on shortly. So with that, please tell a friend and let us help us grow this platform. And I'm going to turn it back over to Greg.
All right. So welcome back, Larry Keener. Larry Keener joined us probably about a year and a half ago. And we gave you a full introduction there. Today, we're going to give you an abbreviated one because we want to anxiously get to your content. But Larry Keener is an international product safety consultant. He is the founder and CEO of International Product Safety Consultants since February of 1996. He is a food safety consultant, preventative control qualified individual. He's got a couple of initials behind his name: CFS, PA, IFT, and also fellow or IFT fellow. and he travels both domestically and internationally, helping companies with food safety. He was the director of product safety and regulatory affairs with Unilever. And if you're not familiar with Unilever, they own a bunch of stuff in the food and drug area. And he was with them from 1985 to 1996. He has his education from the University of California, Berkeley. I believe you're residing in the Great Northwest, the Seattle area, and where we complain about rain here, but up in his area, when the sun comes out, people grab their cameras to take picture of it to show their kids this is what the sun looks like. We've asked Brother Keener to come on to help us with not only food safety in general, but the things to eat, the things not to eat. I'll lead off with I was reading, I guess, a couple of weeks ago. Certainly, one thing not to eat was this gentleman in South Korea that was eating live octopus, and he suffocated, had cardiac arrest, and died from it. They weren't able to help him. Apparently, I guess you're supposed to cut it in smaller pieces, and his piece was probably too large. And you can just think of the octopus and the suction cup and live, and it just didn't equate. So I'm guessing no one on the call is going to be eating live octopus or anything that's live. But at least it's fresh, right? But he will be joining us right now. So please join me in welcoming to the virtual stage Larry Keener.
Thank you, Greg, for that very kind and generous, effusive, I might say, introduction. But I appreciate it. I've been doing this, as Greg indicated, for it seems like a very long time. I left the University of California in the 70s and went down the street to work for then the National Food Processors Association, the largest scientific-based uh, association in the world at the time. And that was a great place to learn my craft and learn the ins and outs, the nuances of how we make food safe and what it looks like when it's not safe. So thanks, Stephen Turner, for again asking me to join this community briefing. I told Stephen the other day that I just did a podcast the day before yesterday for an international audience. We had participants from about 7 countries. And of course, we were talking about my favorite topic, and that was food safety. In particular, we talked about a Netflix movie called Poisoned, the true story of food safety in the United States. And it's, controversial. And we convened a panel of experts to talk about the controversy and try and set the record straight that there are people like myself who work every day trying to make sure that the foods in your supermarket are safe, wholesome, and fit for consumption. Uh, uh, and and so yes, Greg and Stephen, I think you guys had some talking points that you wanted me to make.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yes. So, we were looking for food safety in general, and you were here previously to share that, but we wanted it today sort of tailored to the upcoming feast and food. We talked a little bit on the green room before we started the show about the turkey specifically and the defrosting process and cooking process, and then how many of you all like Thanksgiving leftovers? Any show of hands? Anybody like Thanksgiving leftovers? Okay,
Yeah.
so you be able to share some. Oh, that's interesting. I have the my thing set up where if I raise my hand, the it pops up there. How long should you keep leftovers? You know, and there may be differences between storing meat versus fish and vegetables. You know, I would think the mac and cheese might last a little longer than the than the bird. And hopefully, you guys using real cheese and not what's that stuff?
The Velveeta.
My wife makes macaroni and cheese, and she doesn't like the Velveeta, but people complain because they want to see that orange, that orange look from the Velveeta. So,
Yeah.
so Larry, tell us a bit about again, just food safety in general there, but particularly when it comes to Thanksgiving, things that we can look for: fresh, frozen, canned, etc.
All right. So we've been on this journey in the United States for a pretty long time. Professor Wiley in the late 1800s formed at the U.S. Department of Agriculture what was called then the Poison Squad, and we didn't know a lot about microbiology. We didn't know a lot about organic chemistry. We didn't know a lot about toxicology. As a matter of fact, germ theory, we all know about Louis Pasteur. Louis Pasteur published his first treatise on germ theory in 1862. So, microbiology is not a very old science. And then so in 1906, under Teddy Roosevelt, we signed the Pure Food Act. That was the first time that we had legislation in this country that was to address food safety. And in that same year, um, they published the uh, the Federal Meat Inspection Act. And again, that was food safety focused, and it was focused on meat processing. So if you want to read a book that will wake you up about conditions in the stockyards and slaughterhouses, at that time, Upton Sinclair published his seminal work, The Jungle, in 1905. And variously researchers and scholars and historians are saying that it was this book that inspired both Teddy Roosevelt to sign both the Pure Food Act and the Federal Meat Inspection Act. Again, the conditions in the stockyard were horrific. Um, we were killing people in this country. We were killing people in this country daily with improperly prepared, packed, and held food products. And so since then, 1938, Franklin Roosevelt signed the updated version of what we have now, the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, which is important legislation. It's legislation aimed at protecting your families and preventing fraud and other nefarious acts that could cause harm or injury to the consuming public. 1958, the Delaney Clause to the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act said that we cannot add any carcinogenic material to the food supply. It was a prohibition, and the Delaney Clause still is still on the book. Um, and the FIFRA, the Federal Insecticide, Rodenticide, and Fungicide Act was passed in 72, no, 1948, and that had to do with pesticide residues in the foods that we eat. And Thanksgiving is coming up, and that's going to be something that we have to be concerned about. And again, this created an opportunity to regulate dangerous substances like DDT and DDE and other things that were variously called economic poisons. because they had a positive economic benefit for the people who used them because they allowed more yield per acre of the crops that were treated. But then that was the health consequences for people who were exposed to it. I'm giving you this little background here to show you that we've been working at this for a long time, trying to get it right. And just the other week in the state of California, Governor Newsom signed some legislation that banned BVO, brominated vegetable oil, red dye number 3, propylparaben, and potassium bromate. That was pretty aggressive, pretty bold. The the FDA, the federal government, has not moved to ban these agents other than just last week that came out of DC that they were having a look at banning BVO. But the fact of the matter is, most of the soda industry has stopped using BVO on a voluntary basis some years ago because they recognized that BVO had deleterious health effects. Red dye number 3, there's always a joke in our community about some barbecue and some red soda water, right? So that red soda water is red because, well, we banned red dye number 40 some years ago and replaced it with red dye number 3, and erythrocene, an erythrocene dye. You might see it on the ingredient label as written as erythrocene on the ingredient declaration. It's a pretty non-reactive, very stable compound that gives a bright red color to anything that you add it to, soda pop, Skittles, candy, and it's also associated with neuro behavioral disorders in kids. It's also known to cause cancer. These brominated the potassium bromate used to leaven cause bread to rise. It's used extensively by the baking industry. That compound contains a healthy dose of benzene. And when Benzinger, back in the last century, first described the active compound in benzene, he described it as snakes chasing each other in a circle. And I think that that's right because we know that those snakes are carcinogenic. And so we're having a look now. The federal government is probably going to ban potassium bromate in baked goods pretty soon. So I think California is out in the vanguard, looking out for the health of the people in the state. And so I actually applaud the legislators and your governor for taking these aggressive actions to protect your health.
Yeah.
Now,
Let
go
me just
ahead, Greg.
in
Yeah.
it here. So here are the type of things that potassium bromate could be in: bagels, bread, crackers, donuts, English muffins, pastries, pizza crusts, pizza dough, pretzels, rolls, tortillas, and waffle cones. Anybody eat
Absolutely.
those? Yeah.
Greg, you're killing me.
No, they are. I'm not. They're killing you.
Yeah,
I told you your diet is gonna be water.
All right, go ahead there, Larry Keenan.
well, thanks, Greg, for pulling that up because you're right. It's in the food supply, and that's for sure. But so again, we're working at it. California's been out in the lead for a long time. When I left university, I went to NFPA, but at the same time, I also took a position with the University of California, San Francisco, in the Department of International Health, and we were highly focused on food safety. That department now is housed at the University of California at Davis. But you know, my favorite holiday is upon us, and and I should say too that today is my birthday, so I'm celebrating with you guys. But Thanksgiving is here, and it's a great holiday. It's my favorite holiday. The idea of saying thanks for what we've been given is I just love the idea of it. But if we if we don't get that feast right, well, they say that, salmonella is an equal opportunity organism, and salmonella will seldom kill you, but it will often make you wish that you were dead. And so salmonella is is real. Um, and it is in fact an equal opportunity opportunistic organism that we need to take care of. And I want to start off with salmonella because turkey, for those of us who are carnivores, is at the center plate for Thanksgiving. It is the tradition to have turkey, but turkey is uh, likely, very likely, highly likely to be contaminated with salmonella. So then, so then you say, well, okay, so what does that mean? So Greg asked a very insightful question in the green room about thawing and how we should handle thawing the bird out. Salmonella um, is a mesophilic organism, meaning like us, it likes the temperatures that we like, the temperatures that we are comfortable at. That organism is also comfortable at those temperatures, and it will grow, and it will grow very rapidly. As a matter of fact, exponentially. So so then when we take the turkey, the frozen turkey from the supermarket, or if you buy a fresh bird from the supermarket, and you're going to hold it uh, until the night before Thanksgiving or Thanksgiving morning to cook it, hold it in the refrigerator, hold it cold. And if you're taking a frozen bird from the supermarket, give yourself time to let it thaw out, preferably in your refrigerator. Putting it out on the counter and leaving it out on the counter to thaw out is very risky, super risky behavior, because you're going to cause the organism to grow out and spread. And then you say, well, Larry, we're going to cook the turkey afterwards. And that's right. Salmonella is very vulnerable to heat. Expose it to 160 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 minutes, and you've got a massive kill off of that organism. But that turkey that you thawed out and you've unwrapped, you put it out, you take it out to clean it, and therefore, because it has high numbers of this organism, now all of your kitchen is contaminated. Your sink is contaminated. Your kitchen counters are contaminated. And so you need to think big about handling handling this bird, and you need to prepare to disinfect the areas where you've opened the bird. You need to have a plan for disposing of the primary wrapper, the wrapper of the bird that's in contact with the flesh. You need to have a plan so that when you open it up, you can dispose of it with minimal contact to surfaces in the kitchen. And then once you've got your bird cleaned up and prepared for cooking, make sure that you go back and disinfect all of the tools, the implements, the sinks, the areas where that bird was in contact with, because it will be. It's not if, it will be contaminated with salmonella. And so what does that mean? So that means that if you go now to that sink where you clean the bird and you rinse it out and you put your greens in there. Now, and I know to how you clean your collard greens or your mustard greens or your kale. You put it in the sink, you add some salt to it, and you leave them in there to soak for a while so you can drive off all of the creatures, the insects, the caterpillars, the flies that live in the natural world. But while you're doing that, guess what? If you didn't sanitize that sink, you've just now contaminated your greens with salmonella. So that's called cross contamination.
Larry,
Or
I'm
yes,
injecting. What's a
yeah,
good what's good for cleaning? Obviously, we're not going to use chlorine bleach.
yeah,
uh,
yeah. Why
but
not?
well, that's what I'm asking. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, I have a spray bottle of chlorine disinfectant on the counter, commercial product. I have on in my kitchen counter and under my kitchen sink always.
It's
Uh,
chlorine, but not a chlorine bleach. Is that what you're saying?
no, it's a chlorinated spray compound.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then the other thing I want to make a point of is when you when you wash the area down with hot water after you've contaminated with the bird, wash it down with hot water, then come back and apply your chlorine spray or disinfectant, and then make sure that you leave the disinfectant in contact with the area for a couple minutes before you then rinse it off or wipe it off. The killing power of chlorine is it takes some time. It isn't instantaneous. So make sure that you allow time for the sanitizer to actually do its work. That's the point. But cross contaminate, so the bird is contaminated when you buy it from the store. Now you bring it into your home and you contaminate the whole of the kitchen if you're not careful. That's my point. Uh, so make sure that you have a plan for and that you anticipate the pathogen that is arriving in your kitchen on your turkey.
Sarah, you have a turkey related question?
I have a business related question associated with this, if I may. Um, the County of Los Angeles, they're working on, and it'll be fairly soon, rolled out where businesses can, like catering businesses can um, prepare up to 30, I believe, meals or something like that a day from home. And it's being coordinated with the health department. But I kind of just like, what's your kind of take on um, small businesses? And we advocate for it to be able to have the opportunity to do this so that they can have a place to start and scale up. But this is food. This interacts with the public in a way where we need to have safety measures. What I just like
And she froze up there.
kind of hear your
yeah.
take on that, and like the street vendors and whatnot.
If we could we put a pin in that one and circle back to it and let Brother Keener finish on the Thanksgiving food piece of it, because
Okay.
That's a separate. We're trying to help folks at home who are
Okay.
cooking for their home family, and that's a combination between business and sort of food prep at home versus
Mm-hmm.
at a location. And there's a whole lot of that. That's unravels a whole nother
Okay, my apologies.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's good. That's good. But
Okay.
yeah, we just want to kind of stay focused on the Thanksgiving meal. But I think that's an excellent point because people do prepare food at home, and should we be? Are you better off buying it from them or from a restaurant? So that's a good thing to we want to include at the in the next segment. But that later in the segment. But
It's a great,
Okay.
yeah.
it's a fantastic question.
Hmm.
It is absolutely a fan. So then the other thing, so there's the prep, and then so now we've got to cook this turkey, um, and you need to make sure that it's thoroughly cooked, because absent of proper cooking, there are some other organisms that arrived with that turkey, like Staphylococcus aureus, Bacillus cereus, Clostridium perfringens, that also need to be inactivated. And the way we inactivate those guys are thorough cooking in an oven, probably at 380 degrees or thereabouts, or for a couple hours. What it's certainly weight dependent. Um, and there are plenty cooking instructions out there about how to do it, but follow those cooking instructions and use a meat thermometer to make sure that the internal temperature at the thickest part of the bird is at that recommended temperature. Otherwise you're playing Russian roulette. You're gonna make people sick. Um, and then so now we've got that bird cooked, and then usually we're cooking some people call it stuffing, some people call it dressing. We're cooking some kind of side dishes to go with it. Dressing is very interesting because most of us in my family, they call it dressing, and they make it with uh, vegetable broth, or they make it with meat broth. Uh, and again, there are the spores. These are bacteria that are heat resistant, um, that need to be considered, like Clostridium perfringens. And if the dressing is taken from the oven and let the temperature drop below 140 degrees, 140 degrees Fahrenheit, 50 degrees centigrade, and left in that cold, warm state, less than 140, for an hour or more, there's a distinct possibility that those spores will grow out in your dressing and make people sick. I mean, deathly sick. The admonition here is to keep hot food hot and keep cold food cold. The danger zone resides below 140 and above 40. So keep it above 140 degrees Fahrenheit, and if it's cold, keep it less than 40 degrees Fahrenheit. That's that's a very important thing, because we prepare these meals and we're expecting our guests to come over, and we're going to hold that food until it's time to serve it. Make sure you hold it properly. So now we've had this feast, and we've taken care. Now we've got leftovers, and we're gonna put all of this stuff in the refrigerator. And the U.S. Department of Agriculture, if we were a restaurant, the U.S. Department of Agriculture says that you can't keep it for more than 7 days. That's law. That's in the food code. And so, yes, so that would apply if you've got a refrigerator that is properly functioning, and so that the temperature in that refrigerator is less than 5 degrees C, uh, and and it can be maintained typically at the back of the refrigerator at that temperature, you're gonna be fine. Remember, the front end of your refrigerator is the warmest part of the refrigerator because you open and close the doors. So if you've got, you've got dishes and meat and your macaroni and cheese and your potato salads and mashed potatoes and all of those other things that go on the Thanksgiving table, make sure that they're at the back of your refrigerator, properly sealed, and make sure that they're cold. 7 days um, is the end. I'm always going to be conservative, and probably I'm not going to keep it there for 7 days. Uh, but probably 5 days is the end of it for me. I'm going to get rid of it. That but the government, back to Sarah's question, the government says that 7 days is safe. And so, I mean, I've kind of taken you through. I missed some of the organisms: Staphylococcus aureus, Bacillus cereus. If you got rice and rice dishes, if you're making a rice stuffing, for example, and I like wild rice and rice stuffing, Bacillus cereus is an organism. Uh, you'll be throwing up for a week if you don't properly handle uh, these rice and grain dishes, if you don't properly store them. Gravy, absolutely ideal pablum for Clostridium perfringens. Absolutely, in an ideal growth medium for perfringens. And perfringens poisoning again is ugly. You have diarrhea, and you will have effusive throwing up. It's a real ugly disease. Most of these won't kill you. Pregnant women are at great risk or greater risk. Um, the aged who are immunocompromised, or people who have stomach problems and are taking the kinds of over-the-counter or prescription medications to alleviate uh, upset stomach or persistent stomach problems, are at risk because these microorganisms take advantage of the conditions in the GI tract, and are then enabled to initiate the morbid processes. Um, so I mean, we've flown through a lot of material here, Greg, and so I'm gonna give it back to you and see if we've got some questions.
A real quick question on the turkey. Do you brine the turkey? Is that helping with the salt? Is that killing off any of the organisms or just
Brilliant. And I do brine. And so, but the caution about brining is that you need to brine in, I use an ice chest, and I put the bird in the ice chest. I melt my salt, melt the sugar, melt the spices, and I add that concentrated salt liquid. I add it cold to the turkey, and then I add a bag of ice, and I close the ice chest to keep that to keep it absolutely cold for the duration of the marinating process. Yes, salt is one of the oldest forms. Salt, sugar, and honey. If you go back and look in the literature, we've been preserving food with salt and sugar and honey for millennia, and doing it very well. Salt is has an effect on Salmonella, Shigella, some of those organisms, but then I have to tell you about Staphylococcus aureus. So in reduced oxygen tension and increased salt, we give that organism selective preference. So you need to make sure that it's cold. You need to make sure that it's rinsed off after you brine it, and then you need to make sure that you thoroughly cook it to the internal temperature uh, that is recommended by the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
So we have beat that turkey to death, that's for sure. Are there any Thanksgiving foods? I think you talked about rice. I don't know anything about macaroni and cheese, greens. I think sounds like you're saying the safe window is that 7 day demarcation, and perhaps a little earlier. Anything that we left out from a foods on Thanksgiving? Anybody think of something? Question? Renee, you have a question?
She put a
I was
question.
I was asking about I put this in the chat about cleaning when you're cleaning your kitchen surfaces with the spray, and maybe you use a rag or a cloth. Do you spray those, or you throw them in the wash, or how do you get rid of what you use to decontaminate?
Thank you. Thank you. Great, 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 great question. So it's all about, remember, I said have a plan. Because if you're right, you're absolutely right. Once you've used those rags, they need to go immediately out of your kitchen into the laundry room, and almost immediately into the laundry, and where they are washed with bleach, because they are not likely, they are profoundly contaminated. And this is a problem when people use those rags, and they blithely then wipe down other surfaces, and what you've done then is just inoculate. You've spread the contagion more broadly across your kitchen. That's a brilliant question. Thanks for bringing that one up.
Thank you.
Disposable paper towels might be a better way to go with cleaning. That's what we use.
And make sure that you've got a receptacle handy to dispose of them immediately.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Good information. Let's now circle to Sarah brought up a good question, regarding a lot of places now, or people are preparing foods in a home environment, but selling them. Particularly, they're selling pies. Sweet potato pie. Should that be refrigerated? Because most of the time it's not refrigerated. It's in that zone. It's going to be above 40 degrees, and more than likely below 140 unless it came out the oven.
Yeah.
And then people are preparing foods to sell out of kitchens that aren't regulated or inspected. It's a great question. So Sarah, do you want to rephrase it specifically to what you wanted to address?
Well, I think you basically did. What it is that it was presented to us in terms of letting us know from the Small Business Commission, letting us know that this opportunity will be opening up for small businesses. But it's like, if from our perspective, if there's any types of questions or inquiries that we should ask to just like make sure that certain things are being looked at, and not I mean, they are connecting it with the health department, so I'm sure that they know all about what's going on, but still it's just something in terms of um, wanting to be knowledgeable about when we're dealing with businesses who are cooking out of their kitchen.
Yeah, again, Sarah, a brilliant question. And you folks who live in the state of California, again, California is a leader in the area of food safety, hands down. the only other state that comes close is Florida, and that's because of Disney, because of the massive amounts of foods that are sold at the Disney outlets. The whole state of Florida then is a beneficiary of enhanced regulatory requirements. California, though, is the leader. And what what's being proposed, or what I haven't looked at the proposal, but what it sounds like is being proposed under the guidelines of the California Public Health Service. I was just down in Sacramento 3 weeks ago to have a conversation with CDFA about a project that I'm working on with clients out in Australia. And I can assure you uh, that that this program that you're talking about is a high risk program, because we are dealing with food, and all of the things that I've just talked about are real, and they happen. You know, we kill in this country upwards of 3,000 people a year. We make more than 48 million people a year sick from foodborne diseases, and we know that those numbers are underreported. Yes, I think that this is an opportunity, but it has associated risk, and I think that the risk can be managed, and if there's a state where the risk can be managed, it is California. So yes, that it's a challenge.
We also have here in California a lot of food vendors that are truck based, and some of them were on the sidewalk. There was a really popular taco truck that I went to, and I'm reasonably sure I got sick from. They had a condiment tray where all the trays were, and that wasn't refrigerated or anything like that, and it was separate from the truck itself, so it wasn't guarded. There was no employee there guarding it. And Larry, I was sick for about 4 days. And so that obviously I've not returned to that truck, and I have since that was in 2014. So since then, I have severely reduced my taco food truck, and anybody standing on the corner, or now they have these propane things, but they've got I don't see any refrigeration or anything like that.
Yeah.
So then the cooler.
You
There's
know, Greg, we want our small businesses to be able to thrive and operate and everything, but at the same time too, there is a public safety aspect. So, like much like how there's dates on an egg carton or whatnot, that tell you when it's about to expire or something, should there be some type of postings to say that, I don't know, that this was created, made, okay, Roz knows all about this, so I'll let Roz
And
speak. But
no, listen,
I,
no,
you
no, I
know,
was
just
no, I don't know everything. I just want to say that what's coming up and addressing the vendors, you do have the public health that's in there, and just like with a restaurant, they come out and periodically and they give you the letter grade to check and inspect that all of these things that Larry was talking about, temperature and the cleanliness and cross contamination, they check it. I'm concerned about the small business and these vendors that are out there, because they're out there and they've made them legal, but they've made them legal. And if the legal ones will have a letter signed up there because they've gotten a permit, they paid for that, and they are subject to inspection. Now, when you're talking about the people who have been doing this at their homes and cooking out of their homes, and to legitimize them, you're talking about the health department, who's right now understaffed, because they don't even come out timely to inspect, who is understaffed. They need to, they are supposedly going to get these people and get them, to get them their letter grade and get them inspected. Because the other thing with that is that it makes them pay taxes on that food and delivery. So, you know, your concern, I think, sir, is legitimate, and what we need to be aware of, and all the vendors and trucks that you're going to, because they're popping up everywhere. But the big thing is look and see if they've got the letter, because a lot of them, you know, now have been there, and it's too much for the police to track, because they're able to sit up on a sidewalk out, as long as they're on a sidewalk, and not on your property. They can be in front of a restaurant and set up shop out there. And but the police, but what I do is, because they're sitting outside of my place, what you do, you call the police, but they don't have the manpower to come out to check for that, to make sure that you're certified either. So I think the beware and eating at those places is to make sure that they're there, and it's really a concern of small business with an opportunity. It's an opportunity, but a lot of them are not going to go the legal way to get it done, and it's not being patrolled.
You need to protect yourself. If you show up at a street vendor and they don't have the ability to wash their hands,
Exactly.
don't buy any food there. I mean, that's just plain and simple. You got to use common sense out there too. And so
Right.
in 2015, I wrote a book called Regulating the Safety of Traditional and Ethnic Foods, and it's not focused on street food, what we call street food, because street food in the United States is an emerging kind of proposition. Whereas in Thailand and Mexico and Vietnam, but these other places that I've been, street food is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. And so in my book, I talk about the challenges and I talk about the opportunities and I talk about, how to, how it might be fixed. But it's growing in California, and while yes, there are segments that are regulated, there will always be these people who skirt the regulations. I mean, that's just a reality. And so you have to go and you have to, use your head and think for yourself. And if you went over and you got some condiments off of a tray that was sitting out in the sun and open to contamination, well, you probably got an infection from it. The other thing, organism that I didn't talk about now, and it's on the top of my mind right now because I'm writing a paper right now on foodborne parasites. We didn't talk about parasites today, but an important foodborne parasite, a killer, the number three foodborne killer is Toxoplasma gondii. And how many of you own cats?
Not black people.
If you have cats in your home, you have T. gondii in your home. And if you empty your cat litter box, uh, it's highly likely that you got T. gondii on your hands. And if your cat comes out of the litter box and tracks around your house, it's pretty sure that you got T. gondii in your house. The World Health Organization says that more than one-third of the people on this planet are infected by that parasite. And as I said, it's the top three leading killer of foodborne mediated death in the United States. And now all of this stuff is on the top of my head because I said I'm in the midst of writing a paper on parasites right now. So
What part of
so
the country has the most parasites, Larry?
it's the warmer the southern warmer regions of the country right now. And I say right now because one of the consequences of global warming is we're seeing a shift we're seeing a shift in the geographical distribution of parasites. Yeah, I mean, you had a case in California a month ago of a woman up in the Bay Area who had both legs and both arms amputated because she was infected with Vibrio vulnificus, a parasite that is transmitted by marine fishes. Uh, that organism had historically been in the southeast, the Gulf Coast, warmer waters. But in 20 in the first part of this year, in the summer, we had Vibrio vulnificus infections occurring in Connecticut, North Carolina, New York, and in California. And many in my community are looking at this and saying that this is an impact of global warming. Also, a fish-borne parasite in Pacific waters that was usually down your way, the warmer waters down by California. We now have a plentiful distribution of these worms in our waters here, and so therefore the salmon that we like so much in this area have an increased worm burden that we had historically never seen before. So
Yeah.
it's dynamic. Food safety is dynamic. What we know today will change. Now, and I said, and I'm being emphatic when I say will change because it will change. It's not static. We learn every day, and every day that we learn something new, we try and get the word out. Try and develop preventive strategies to contain it. The fact of the matter is, we have 8 billion of us now on this planet that we need to feed and water. By 2050, there will be 10 billion of us on this planet that need to be fed and sheltered and watered. So that's my admonition about where we at with food safety. It's a job that'll never be done, and most of you guys probably before Stephen asked me to come on this show didn't even know that people like me existed behind the scenes because we are behind the scenes.
And we're appreciative, and we want to circle back and collectively wish you a happy birthday. And we thank you so much for not only making the time to be here, but to be here on your birthday. That is extra special. And
I put some balloons in the chat for you, Larry.
Yeah. Thank you, Crystal.
I can't get them all the way to Seattle, but
I would have thought the biggest place in the nation with parasites was Washington D.C., but that's a
yeah, the human ones are there.
I was staying away from the politics.
That was a good one, Greg.
Stephen, who do we have next week?
Stephen's still there.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I don't have the.
Her name is Andrea Lewis. She is actually an actress, producer, and writer. She's written. What's the book, Stephen?
Not next week. Following week, isn't it the 7th?
Next week. Next week's we're dark because we're gonna have.
So we are going to be off air next Thursday. Hopefully, eating safe turkey and safe dressing and keeping our families safe. So we're going to skip next Thursday, and then we'll be back
on the 30th.
The 30th.
And Andrea's documentary is I can't even think of it right now.
The Black Urban
the Black effect, and it's about the Black beauty effect, and it's about hair, Black skin, and Black makeup, because all the Black actresses for years had to carry their own makeup because the white makeup artists didn't know how to work with them nor their hair or any. She's a good friend of mine. I invited her to talk to Mr. Turner there, and thank you for inviting her.
So
Awesome.
we're excited. I'm excited to see her. The reason that I started my urban garden and became a urban farmer is exactly because of that. And for our greens, we wash them outside. We have a special tub just for our greens. Right after we harvest them, we do all the salt and all of the soap. Everything is done outside. Then we bring it in, and my brother-in-law then cooks it, so we don't have that contamination going on. So I would suggest you guys get you some containers and put your food in it as well, because that we've learned some very amazing things about the pesticides and what happens to your food at by the time it gets to the supermarket. In order to preserve it, to feed all of those millions and millions of people, they have to put stuff in it to make that happen. So I'm reading a book called The Plant Paradox by Dr. Stephen Gundry, and he really goes into detail. So yeah, so if you guys are looking to preserve your life and not get gut diseases and stuff, that might be a thought process for you. Too many people are dying from cancer, especially stomach and pancreatic. So it has to be what we're eating.
Yeah, because the short-term and long-term effects of unhealthy eating, that's for sure. The short-term you may feel within, a few hours to 24 hours, and then the long-term could take, a few years or 24 years. So, Larry, again, thank you so much. We love hearing from you and how these 5, 6, and 7 syllable bacteria just roll off of your tongue. I hear some of them like, what?
Scary.
What language is that? Because it's a lot of it's had Latin origins,
Yes,
and yeah, so that's it's a different language totally. So we appreciate that.
Greg not only runs off his tongue, he can just pop it into his head and speak it like it's English.
Exactly.
I'm amazed and impressed.
Yeah.
And as usual, Larry, we run out of time with you, so we would certainly think to have you come back again next year sometime and join us and do you pop in from time to time. You don't need invitation. You just come in as a guest and check us out. But we appreciate and we hope that all of you enjoy a safe, fun, and healthy Thanksgiving. And take heed to the message that was delivered today, so that the bird doesn't take you.
Like Crystal said, maybe all you want to do is have water on Thanksgiving.
Right.
Yeah,
Your own
everybody.
bottled water, though. Can't even have the tap, man.
As far as I know, cognac's still safe.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, some brown liquor. That might be best for you.
Spices or pepper or anything have any type of impact on foods? I know a lot of foods, when you talk about India and the Caribbean, they heavily peppered and heavily spiced.
Interesting. Just so quickly, low energy electron beam technology is a technology that just got approved by the Food and Drug Administration to specifically treat whole spices because whole spices are notoriously contaminated with salmonella.
Oh, wow.
So yeah,
salt and sugar. Salt and sugar. That's all you can use, guys.
I'm sorry, Greg.
Well, Larry, thank you. We will be very conscientious. We should lose some weight for Thanksgiving.
I'm having oatmeal.
if you don't cook that turkey right, I can guarantee you're gonna lose weight.
So we do thank you for the inspiration for maintaining our diet throughout the holiday season. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Bye, guys. Really have a happy birthday.
Happy Thanksgiving.
And
Happy
everyone enjoy
Thanksgiving.
It's been a pleasure.